Welcome to Kildar, and this is Crashport,
And this is Tom Kamavi.
and we'll be showcasing our RPG survival-ish server.
And let's begin the tour. And while we are giving the tour of some basic things on the server, we'll be talking about some of the plugins that we have, or the main plugins that we have.
And future plans and current ideas. Keep in mind, we are only showing the very, main places that have been made. We're not showing anything else for time constraints.
Yeah.
Alright, let's start with the plugin here that we're using in this building currently is, let's start off with the Graveyard plugin.
Yeah, the Graveyard plugin, well, is what it does is whenever you die, instead of going directly to the spawn point, you spawn in the closest graveyard. And that's a skeleton. Um, and these catacombs are actually you're more than likely going to end up here most of the time. In this room is where you'll spawn, actually. Um, there's one other graveyard currently. It's in a town we're about to show you called Said, and it's across the desert. But yeah, like I said, the closest graveyard you are to whenever you die is the one that you're going to spawn in.
We've also got several others, such as Movecraft, which allows us to have like ships and stuff that you can sail around. Although we're only going to be allowing certain people to do that, you have to earn it, I guess. We've got Firelord, which will update gold armor to have fire effects and gold weapons to have fire attributes. We've got plugin that makes it, instead of the economy, we've got it set to where gold ingots, iron ingots, and diamonds are basically the currency, with 40 iron ingots making one gold ingot, 40 gold ingots making one diamond ingot, and because of that, people will only be able to make leather and wood items. You'll have to buy everything else except for diamond, which you have to find through treasure trails, quests, or random dungeons.
Yeah, and then we have to go along with quest and lore and stuff. We have a book plugin that allows us to write in books. Now, normal people, non-admins probably won't be able to write in books, but admins will write, stories about the server. I mean, there might be records kept in books. There
For completing a quest, you'll get a book stating the quest that you've done.
In your name.
In your name. We've got Levelcraft in here also, just to throw that in, that we've got, so that way you have to level up to be able to use higher tier weapons and armor, along with items. But we're going to flush out the world completely with lore and random, like, basically think of Oblivion with its books and its random lore for the past however long the world's been around. We're showing this is the first human settlement. There's several classes or races or classes, you can think of them in the game. They're human, orc, elves, halflings, and dwarves. And to start, you have to pick one, and your skin goes along with the race that you pick, and you'll be living in the area that your race lives in, like a certain town. There's going to be eventually multiple towns and cities and places for every single race.
And along with, here's the other graveyard currently. Along with what he said about the other places, some towns there's going to be like area specific things like in stores where you can only sell certain things in certain areas, or you can only buy, get or buy things in certain areas.
Basically an incentive for you to visit that town. Like the dwarves, for example, you'll be able to buy repairs to your weapons, or the humans, you'll be able to buy like a lot more armor and tools than you would in say the elves' place. And where in the elven area, you probably find more food because they're off in the woods. You'd be able to find more like apples and mushrooms and stuff for food. It's basically a pure survival area where everybody you have to make your own stuff. You don't spawn any items. Everything you make is your own two hands. Except you can use houses that are pre-built in cities because we don't really want you building too much without OP permission because we don't want stupid things like giant soda cans. This is kind of like a Lord of the Rings era of a world. So we don't want like modern things or things that don't fit in with other cities, for example.
Yeah, like giant redstone computers and stuff. That's not really for this server. Now, we do have a couple redstone contraptions, but they're not...
Visible. They're
Yeah.
showing something else, which you'll see when we hit the dwarves area. We've also got a 700 by 700 border for the 1.8 update to keep people from spawning too many chunks as we wait for that, for all of Notch's goodies that he's promised us with the survival update. We are also building continuously adding quests, which you'll see one of the main quests in the Dwarven tunnels. We're always going to be adding quests, and there's always going to be new things to find. Like you'll find like dungeons and random ruins, and most of everything you find has a secret to it. Not always helpful, like gold or money or weapons, but it's always going to have something with it, like a book maybe, or a little like just something.
Something
A
like
sign.
you might find something entertaining, like a funny sign or something like that. But
We're going to completely flush the world out. There, you won't have more than a couple of chunks without something built into it.
yeah, we are going to have it set up like an area protection thing, so any dungeons and stuff, you don't have to like pretend that you can't just get, dig through the wall and get through the dungeon really fast. You're gonna actually have to sit there and figure out all the puzzles and whatnot to get through them. Also, that goes along with houses. Whenever you build a house, there's going to be sectioned off areas that will offer protection that you can buy and build in. Also, we have a plugin called Lockhat, which allows you to lock your chest and doors.
So people don't steal and grief your stuff. Don't what's I gonna say? Oh yeah, the areas that you build, if you build, you have to pre-approve it with us, any OP, and then you have to show us what you build afterwards to make sure that it fits in with the theme of the map.
Alright, this is the Dwarven Mines entrance. I created this redstone contraption. I mean, it's just, 3x3 door, but it took a lot of redstone to...
This is the Dwarven Mines. We'll do a little bit of explaining. We're not going to go into it. We're just going to show you an overview of it from one of the broken catwalks. But basically, every place has an area for people to move into and live. So if you choose a dwarf race, you'd live in the catacombs on the wall, or down in the area down there. This is where most of the mine, like most of the iron and stuff will be produced, most of the stuff for selling to NPCs. If you look far off to the left, you'll see a castle. That castle is a tier 4 quest, which quests are arranged in tiers of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Depending on what tier it is, that's how many people is suggested that you go and do the quest with, because it's harder. So a tier 4 quest is much harder than a tier 1 quest. There's also more loot, but that's so you can share it with your friends if you bring more than one person. Each place using the books every race has their own language except for the humans who use English. So you will find a lot of words that you can't understand, or NPCs will talk to you and you won't be able to understand them. You can translate it if you find one of their books, which will be scattered throughout. There will be multiple copies in case they get burned or whatever happens to them.
Alright, we're just going to do like a quick flyby of the Elven place. We're not going to go into extreme detail about it or anything. It's just kind of be a quickie because, you know, for time's sake.
Like I said, there is a lot of lore here, so every place has its own history that stretches back hundreds of years. We'll be adding to constantly. There will be NPCs that have quests that will be able to give you. If you're wandering through the wilderness, you'll stumble upon a house maybe, and inside that house you'll notice it's either looks like there was a fight or something went on, and they could spark the beginning of a quest or something like that.
Yeah, and there's going to be, you know, places. I mean, there's just going to be some random places like um, pretty much every place has its story. And the place we are approaching on now is the Orc place. We haven't, you know, named it officially yet. Most of it is actually underground in tunnels that are right under the surface. Um, but yeah, so we
It's
spent
a
a
good example of what we mean by you won't be able to understand much. A lot of the signs around here are in Orcish,